Okay, so welcome back to part three of the training. And if this is the first video that you've loaded up, we'll have links to parts one and two somewhere around this video. So in part one, we talked about the preparation phase while you're considering making a life change or a personal reinvention. We gave some perspectives and tools to really reframe a period of feeling like a misfit or a frustrated period of feeling unaligned and how that can be really useful, a useful period of time. And in video number two yesterday, we talked about archetypes and we broke down some broad and vast perspectives on archetypes and ended up with some practical things you can do to start entering into this theme. Because some people think that archetypes is very esoteric. I guess it is esoteric, but um, we're looking to make this as tactile and as actionable as possible for people because at least for me, it has a very tactile, embodied experience to play and explore archetypes in this way. In this video today, Zan, I want to bring up a couple of different themes. And what I'll do is I've just got coming to mind a phone call that I had with one of our listeners just a week or two ago, and he told me a couple of things that I think really shoot to the heart of a lot of concerns at the moment. So I think this gentleman will, obviously I'm going to keep him anonymous, but he might recall some of his conversation with me. The first thing that I wanted to mention is devotion. That we spoke about this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, but the quality of female devotion. And this gentleman, we sat and talked, and he said, he watched a month or two ago, there was this Charlie Kirk assassination, which politically, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but there was an assassination took place, and this Amorati member said to me he watched a clip of the wife and Charlie Kirk's wife, and in this clip, his wife was watching her husband while her husband was doing his thing. I think he gathered people in public and would give some speeches and this kind of political oration and so on. But his wife was just watching from the audience at her husband in his magnitude. And the wife looked upon her man with such a feeling of devotion. Gushing, I think, would be the word. Her eyes, her face softened, her body absolutely gushing with a quality of love. And this gentleman said to me, I just watched 30 seconds of this woman's devotion through a TV screen, and already I want to make changes in my life. Like I'm so overawed at this quality of beauty that I felt in this woman that I want to have this. I got to have this. I saw on the same topic a few years ago. Do you know Gwen Stefani? She was,
Yeah.
she was one of the big pop singers at the end of the 90s and during the 2000s, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw I saw a picture of her. She ended up marrying a country music singer who I think is a big enough deal in the country scene, but outside, country singers don't break out into the mainstream pop and international music, right? But Gwen Stefani did. She's the more famous household name. But she was at the concert of her husband, and he was on the stage playing his country songs. And I had a picture. Maybe I can dig this out and publish it, but I just had a picture of her face. And again,
Hmm.
The calculations of the ego and the mind and the controlling self, I believe, manifest them in the face as a hardness or a tightness. When people squint or they purse or they pull a face, it's like a defensiveness in the face. And I saw the same thing on Gwen Stefani's face. She was utterly gushing. It was this same complete release of all muscle tension, and this complete force of beauty just came up through her heart and through her face and poured out on her husband. And
Mhm.
I'm going to a few pains to paint this picture because I think there has to be an image of where this can go for a lot of men. Because I still even kind of around our general community, I still see fragments of conversation online. Men are like, does it work? Oh, it doesn't work. Well, authenticity is all right, but I also mix it with some other method or whatever because it doesn't work, right? And I'm thinking, well, what does it mean that it works or it doesn't work? What is the end that you're trying to get to? Is it just the physical body of a girl in your bed? Or is it some different state? And what I hear again and again from the um, more, I don't know, could say mature, but at least a huge number of gentlemen from within our circle, they're saying, actually, what I want is not necessarily the model looks, but it's this quality of devotion or this gushing. I want her to look upon me with those eyes that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this quite at length, and I'm writing about it. This concept of devotion, and we talked a couple of podcasts ago about the idea of longevity and promising the future and commitment, etc. Commitment is the operative word. Now, this is incredible because to me, those men to the women that they were in, the two you mentioned, are caught up in something that they are completely in love with. Their causes or whatever it is, country music or Charlie Kirk, and their respective women have a quality that is not very often in relationships, but it is the quality you need both ways for a relationship to really have that devoted quality, which is pride in the person. Like those women, and I'm just from your description, I didn't see them, really like who he is, really like that guy on stage. They're really proud of who he is and what he's trying to accomplish. And they're so supportive of that because they adore his dedication to his cause. And they're completely different causes. Maybe the same cause, but expressed in different ways. And how many people in relationships, how many men in relationships that the woman is not proud of? It's just a guy. He's got a job, he's getting another job, and he's not devoted to some kind of creating something, or he's not a creator, he's not an artist or something, you know? So that quality, and I've seen it, I can think of relationships now where they just pick at each other and they're rolling their eyes and they're not proud of who the other person is. They're trying to get that person to correct so many relationships. If only she would blah, 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 then it would, you know, if she would quit doing this or she'd start doing this, and vice versa. Women are just as, you know, have the same thing. He's always blah, 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 and I wish he would. And there's no pride in it. There's no real sense of support and inspiration coming from her to him and him to her. So that's why I say in relationships that have this quality, they really care about the other person in a way of not just I care for you, but they really want them to have a good experience in their life, and they care that they're having a good experience or not. So now, man to woman, I suspect that Charlie Kirk and this country music singer, they really paid attention to their wives and made them feel like they're that because of you, I have this ability to go on stage and be this guy because of you, because I have you and I have the kids, right? And when women believe that, everything they give everything to you, they shower you, they gush, like is the word you use, you know, and vice versa. If you're not proud of your wife or the girl you're with, if you're not proud of who she is as a person and think that's a cool chick, if you don't think that, you're not proud of her, what she's trying to accomplish, what she's working on, and she just exists, and your stuff is the number one, you know, like your career and what you're trying to create is the number one, and she's just your wife, and the kids are just your kids. Like this is important what I'm doing. You guys go to school and you go to your, you know, your job at the grocery store, and leave me to the big things in life. There's no pride in honoring her, and they can feel that, and they can feel that they're an adjunct or an accessory to your experience. And the men who have this quality of devotion from their women have the quality of devotion for them and their journey. And they don't think that my career is much more bigger than yours and more important than your stupid little accounting job. You know what I mean? But that's
Yeah.
so prevalent. That's everywhere
Mm,
in relationships. And a relationship is over when both of them are rolling their eyes. It's over.
mm.
And it might last for years after that. But if he says something, she's like rolling her eyes, it's done. That's the end of it. Because there's no respect. There's no, there's just, yeah, it's a finished relationship. And rolling your eyes is a sign of it for sure.
The important thing that we haven't discussed so far, because in our first couple of videos, in a way, we're talking about a man living mythically and growing into his grandeur and to the power of his archetype and so on. And that's a huge thing. But then it's no good to be such a large man and have your woman as an acolyte or an adjunct, as you're saying. The
Right.
respect and the admiration has to go in both directions in an even extent.
If you can't pause your magnificent giant life that you've got and turn your face to your children and your wife, if you can't do that, you'll lose everything. You lose them. And you won't have that devoted quality. If you don't admire your woman, that's the quality. You have to admire who she is and what she's what she's struggling with, and she's stuck on something that, with her career or her art or something, and you really pay attention to it. Pay attention, man. Pay attention. Women notice the details on a man, like physical details, like his fingernails, his shoes, whatever. But when a man notices details in women, they all sit up, because they pay attention. And if there's something going off, there's a discontent in a man's wife, for instance, and you can feel it. He stops what he's doing and says, "How can I be of service to you, my dear, my beloved? How can I don't know how to solve it. Is there anything? Can I just sit with you?" Where did I just see this? I saw the singer from Smashing Pumpkins. Can't remember what his name is. He does a podcast, and I saw a clip of him, and he basically said that he said, by the time I was 26, I had $1 million. I was a millionaire at 26, and I was like Grammys and like famous as that. And he said, and my wife and kids, he said, they see me, being this big rock star sort of thing. And I told them from the very beginning, no matter how big this gets, and no matter what's happening in my life, there's nothing more important to me than you and you and you at all. None of this matters. And he said that over and over and over again with words, not just his actions, but with words. And that, to say that, because you might think, well, that's true to me. My wife and kids are more important than my rock star career. But you've got to say it. You've got to present that. You've got to let them know daily that you're more important than all this thing I'm doing out here. I adore you, and I'm going to go I'm going to go on stage and be this famous guy, and I adore you. You've got to say it with words. And if you do that, you'll have complete devotion. The kids will worship you. That's my dad. That's my dad, as opposed to how many famous kids or famous person's kids are estranged from their father, like because he just concentrated on his career and relationships too. So I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but it's so vital. You've got to consciously create it, and you've got to consciously sustain it. It's up to you, because your kids are not going to keep the relationship alive. It's up to you. And same with your wife.
What's amazing is I'm thinking of all the different men that I've known with a sense of rock star career, whatever that looks like, right? Can be rock star just in brute money made behind the computer and so on.
Sure.
But the sense of, I'm going to forge myself into this powerful success story because I want status and because I want to be attractive and because I want to have all the nice things, the high life. And so they go on that path, they get the woman, years go by, they're so wrapped up in the career just keeps on taking off, and they reach the goal of having a beautiful wife long ago, but they're still wrapped up actually in the monolithic pursuit of greatness, that
Yeah.
they forget the people around them. And you saying this on my podcast, I mean, the homework today, we're finishing the series with a bit of homework. That one of the homeworks already is like, think of all the times as a man that you actually stopped your purpose in your career to look around and celebrate with and heap your
Yeah.
attention and your compassion and your devotion on your partner, and then consider all the times that you didn't do it. Because as you say this, I've got a twinge in my chest and I'm like, oh no, I'm guilty of
Yeah.
discounting the importance of other people around me because I've got this big thing that I need to do. And, world, woman, everyone get out of the way because it's about me. It's
Yeah.
it's a real fallacy that I feel can be committed any day where I'm not completely clear or remembering this. There's an opportunity to fall off my own best loving self or off my own devotion to another person.
And it's not, this is important. It doesn't mean that you neglect what you're working on. Maybe you're doing a product launch or something at your company or something. Maybe you're working 70 hours a week because you got a deadline and you're just cramming. That doesn't diminish. And you don't see your wife and kids because they're in bed by the time you get home, sort of thing. That doesn't change what I'm saying, because in the air around you is this devotion that they feel. Doesn't mean that you have to, okay, I have to spend 3 hours with my wife because Anne said that I have to pay attention to details. And so I
do the little boy's homework and so on. Sit down
yeah,
on the
so I'm
rug.
going to neglect my career stuff, which is important, and I'm going to spend time sitting, watching Netflix with her, so that she doesn't feel left out. No, it isn't that, because you're still caught up in your thing, and it might absorb all of your time and energy. You might be a warrior that has to fight wars, like in the olden times, but they can feel it, that they're the priority. That moment you fleeting kiss her in the morning as you rush off to your rock star work, whatever you're doing, that little touch of attention in the morning is my beloved, you're the most important thing, and I'm going to go do this big thing, and I can't stop thinking about you. And you say it with words. This is how they feel seen and connected. And that's what we don't do. We think, though, it's just, well, obviously I love her. She knows that. You don't have to. No, 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 no. You've got to 100% reinforce it all the time, actively, verbally, with your actions and with your words. You've got to do it. So she feels it, and the children too. They got to know that I don't see dad for like 3 weeks because he's, flying and making a movie, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But they know that across that 1,000 miles that he's doing this movie in Angola, that you are his priority. And they're then they're proud of you. That's my dad. He's a cool guy, as opposed to this estrangement. You get it?
So, to all of the critique, does this work? Is this the most effective method? Like, what are you aiming for? It's I think you can see here that we're interested in a relationship that evokes devotion in both directions for decades, over the course of decades.
Because Jordan, let me just hammer the point here, belabor the point, I guess. I can think of so many guys I'm coaching who this is the primary thing. I've been with my relationship for 5 years, and it's, she's not, they have disdain for her, mild disdain. Like they don't respect her, and she's getting fat or whatever, right? And they don't recognize that it's up to them to co-create that, to nurture that relationship, and to be loving, and to pay attention to details, and to check in with her. The way I say it is visit. I visit Deanna all the time. I want to know about her. I don't know what she's doing in her work. I can't understand her project. She works in Unreal Engine and AutoCAD and stuff. And I don't I don't get it. But but I sit and try to know. I try to understand. And so many guys I'm coaching, they're like, yeah, she's, I'm going to the gym all the time, and I wish she would do it too. And she needs to I took a silent retreat. It would be really helpful for her. Yeah, probably true. But there's no gentle reaching out and saying, I see you. What are you working on? What are you excited about? What are you scared about what's bothering you right these days, my dear? I haven't talked to you in 2 days. What's bothering you? Tell me what's going on with you. That's powerful. Nobody knows this. The reason I'm saying that is because I have so many guys in coaching that this is the issue. They're losing their woman to 50.
They're foisting, in a way, a self-improvement project on a woman because they want to bring her closer in whatever way they think is going to do it. They try and foist that upon her. But actually, you start with what's really going on, like what's happening now, today. What are you really feeling? What are you really worried about or afraid of or excited about under the surface of now without changing?
That's right.
The experience of where you're really at. So I want to say a few things about, dare I say this online, I want to say things about the Western dating culture and then land this in a question to you. So things have changed radically in the Western world over the last 70 or 80 years. And a lot of people are struggling, a lot of men and women are struggling with relationships in the West. And a lot of men, at least that I see, are really upset. They're really hurting and complaining and upset and bitter and think things are going to ruin. So there's a lot of struggle out there. Now, where I'm going with this is, for hundreds of years of history, men and women they lived in separate arenas. The men would go with the men and the women would be in the women. The women would not go in the pub in England until, after the Second World War. There were no women and children. It would say it on a board in the window. That was the rule. The men would go in the pub and the women would go off with the children, probably home.
I like that.
And society was divided, right? Roles are very clear. And so I think my projection is, looking back, when a man saw a woman, a lady, you would hold your step a minute. Oh, I'm in the presence of a lady all of a sudden. All of the manners and customs that I would reserve for my men folk, I would present a different kind of face or a different kind of manner, because there is a different civility of interacting with the opposite sex, right? So these are some of the gender roles that we've had. Anyway, with my brief interpretation, I know there's people that have prattled on about this for hours and hours in different podcasts, but the more men and women have been put in the same cultural bucket, workplaces, universities, training institutions, and so on, from what I've seen in England, is that as men and women get closer together and spend more time with each other all of the time, the courtesy and the manner kind of falls away. And how I see men in my country treat women is like, the women are going to come to the pub now, so we're going to treat you like inferior men and stick all our banter on you and kind of treat you as inferior men. And the women often come to the pub and they're like, hey, you're not going to give us this shit about being inferior men. We're going to show you what the strength that we've got, and we're not going to be shamed and laughed at by you guys. So we've got this I don't know, sense of battle, and on the one end of the men and women relationship today, there's absolute rancorous toxicity and hatred of one side to the other. And on the other side, you've got kind of like good-natured rivalrous friends. I would say a lot of my friends growing up, they've got a wife or a woman. They have a beautiful relationship, even with devotion in it, and some good sense of rivalry, banter, to use the word.
Yeah.
And what happens throughout this scale is that the old style respect and decorum of meeting someone from the other half has been replaced by this sense of banter. And I know a lot of men. And I know a lot of men who are struggling with this. So I'll give some examples that I've heard recently. When I'm in the UK, and particularly when I'm in America, like the big US cities, there's a sense in which where there's a lot of educated, busy people, there's a sense that people interact with each other with a kind of banter as if everyone is a protagonist on some bad comedy show, and everyone's making the funny remark, and the next one's making the fun, and everyone's so irreverent and funny with these banterous remarks that the everyone's more abstract with each other. There's no fundamental sincere contact between people. It's all just this. And then in the English sense, the banter is almost like you want to psychologically destroy everyone you come into contact with while still having them within your friendship group. Like
Yeah.
we're awful with this tall poppy syndrome. Um, all this to say, when men and women come together in a lot of these Western countries, the expectation is that you interact in this lazy, respect, kind of maybe not disrespectful, but certainly not full of respect, banterous, colloquial, matey, lazy way, which
Okay.
is depolarized and full of kind of like this adversarial jibing. So the gentleman that I was speaking to the other day was just like, like everywhere I go, the women want to banter. They want to kind of fight you down. They want to make jokes that kind of hit you below the waistline a little bit. And he's like, I'm just sick of this. Um it just feels like disrespect, and I want something deep and I want something soulful from a woman that I think is beautiful, that I feel uplifted by, not that I'm constantly going into this laziness.
Well, that's interesting because, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jordan. Sorry,
So
Mike.
the first thing I should check is, do you know what I mean? Do you
Yeah.
know what men we mean when they talk about this kind of
Well,
cultural
I
shift?
guess so. I mean, like, I'm thinking of your country, England, and there was comportment when there was the idea of chivalry and honor bound, and like I can think she's a lady, and so we're not pub matey conversation here because a lady entered the room. Maybe that's drifted away, and there's always been the lower kind of um, gatherings, I guess. But I don't know, like in Canada, we didn't have that. We didn't have this kind of like, there's a lady here, even though there's respect for
Hmm.
women when I was younger, right? But it's not like it's not baked into our society like it was with British culture, where you're a gentleman. I mean, like you look at anything from the 1800s or early 1900s, the concept of gentleman was something that you took very seriously. You're a gentleman, and on your honor, you could make a promise. I promise on my honor as a gentleman. And everybody said that's good. That's good enough. I believe that to my grave because he he pledged on his honor. So honor was huge. Honor's been stripped from our society, I think. And so you had this protocol and this honor, and men would rather have a duel than they would have duels. They're deathly afraid, but they would have a duel because their honor was that important. They would with pistols at dawn sort of thing, right? And that's that kind of level of comportment and dignified sophistication is stripped out of society completely. And and women are occupying spaces that men traditionally occupied, and men are occupying spaces that women traditionally occupied. So you're right. Women are allowed in the pubs, and the men's clubs now can't be men's clubs anymore because that's sexist, and you have to let women into everything. The Boy Scouts certainly. So I don't know. Uh, so this gentleman said that he's upset that he doesn't have a sense of that there's more. It's more of a banter and less decorum and less. I'm not sure what he's asking.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll make this clear. Perhaps I've been over elaborate with my little history lesson, but in my relationships with women for more than 10 years, I've never had this kind of lazy banter, but I
Oh,
see it around me. I see it around me. So if I go to a place where there's a lot of kind of English or American or general Western culture, people hanging out, I see and feel the levels of banter going on around me. And I kind of keep it to the side, like, oh, I'm just not going to look over there and get involved because it's really not attractive to me. But then I'll put my gaze towards places where I feel beauty. Actually, I'll spend my time with women that I feel give and are able to receive a particular kind of beauty and upliftment and respect with each other. So my relationships have been wonderful. I mean, testing in other ways, but wonderful on the felt quality of the early dates and so on. It felt really, really great. But I do see around me people stuck in a sense of,
Mm.
I go on a date with a girl and the first thing she wants to do is like subtly berate me or talk about other men that she fancies in front of my face, even though she's here with me right now. For example, this kind of laziness men are getting caught up in. And I know for a fact that there are ways to cut through, actually, which are all, I would say, facades and distractions. And
But maybe that's something that he's fostering. Like
right.
maybe there's something
Yeah.
in her that she's poking to see if he's got any metal, if he's got any balls, or if he's just gonna. Because I don't get that, and if a
Right.
woman is disrespectful to me or trying to put me in my place, I'm like, I think it's amusing. All right, I don't care what you think, you know. Um, I think that he's overly sensitive. That's what I think. Maybe women are poking more. Well, certainly they are. They're more aggressive in their approach. They're more choosy in the sense that they can dismiss men or not, which is we feel right. But but how can that? How can in my mind that like how can that knock me off my stride? How can that push me off balance? I just
Hmm.
want to let it push me off balance. I'm like, okay, well, I can dance with you. You want to dance? Let's dance. And if she's really vile and really mean spirited and really wanting to knock me down, I just dismiss her from my consciousness. Like she doesn't exist. All right, okay. Yeah, yeah. See you later.
So
So I don't know.
can you say a little bit more about metal? Did you say balls or guts or metal?
Mhm.
Two of the three. How specifically do you deal, or are you in certain situations where the atmosphere is a little bit like, it's not pure. You meet a woman in a bar, or you go on a date, and she turns around, and it's not pure, Mrs. Kirk, Gwen Stefani devotion right off the bat. She actually gives you a bit of shit. What do you?
I'll
How
give
does
you
this metal come
I'll give you an
across?
example. I
Yeah.
was I was at a certain place on Earth a while ago, and I was sat to dinner with this woman on my right hand side who was very much that. She's like dismissive sort of thing because I'm just rude, and she's sophisticated, and I'm in my element, man. Let's go. And I'm not trying to convince her. I just ignored her the whole time and talked to the two women across from me, which was a lovely conversation. They're fantastic. These older women. I'm like, hey, blah 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 blah. Ignoring her, she'd try and inject a few things. Um, think about that. She tried to belittle me and knock me down, and I just ignore it. I was like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I agree and make it worse, sort of thing, right? Like, yeah, that's true. Like, and because it anyway, she was sniping at me, complaining about the meal we're eating, and sniping at me now and then. And I just laughed and agreed with her and nodded my head and kept talking to these two women across the table. As the evening progressed, we all went for like to this private, thing for drinks. And of course, she comes along and she's still ignoring me, but near me, ignoring me like I don't exist, sort of thing, hovering around me the whole night. I know these things. I can smell it a mile away. 100%, I could have lined that thing up if I wanted to. And but I'm not going to prove a point or try and convince her or whatever. So I just kind of ignored her and had fun with these older ladies, And but it doesn't knock me off balance because she made fun of something I said, which I won't repeat here because it'll get too much of a story clear. Something I said that I was in error on, and I said, "Yeah, you're right. I never thought of that. That's true. You know, I was wrong." And I lap it up, like I like it. And she's like, "Oh, can't believe you didn't know that." Oh, like this. And, yeah, it's true, huh? What the heck? I'm a bit of a philistine, you know. And I left it at that. And she followed me around all night, energetically, for certain. And I just, I'm not going to try and correct you or prove that you or get you all lovey dovey with me. I don't care. But I guess my point is, there's nothing she could say to me, nothing that would make would make me feel small. And I'll have to say this, because this is a strange thing for my 20-year-old self. There's nothing a woman on this. I can't imagine that there's anything that a woman can say to me that would anywhere that would make me think, well, gee, maybe not because I'm the super confident guy, but because I've seen some things and I've been in the presence of women and I know what they're really thinking. So she could not knock me off my balance. And I was having an enormous time with these other two older women. And what it comes from, I guess, from my years of contemplation on this subject and my trajectory and my age, maybe. I don't know.
Well, you said a couple of key things. You said, on the one hand, maybe this man I was speaking to was a bit sensitive, actually, to some of these barbs and
Well,
these
for
knots
certain.
and this way of being.
If I can say something to you, Jordan, that knocks you down a little bit, it's because you feel that there's some truth to it, and I feel that way internally, and they're noticing it,
Yeah.
right? For certain. You, if
So,
you
so
don't
that
believe it,
that's actually, if you're feeling you're getting barbed or you're getting knocked about a little bit by women, you've got to look inside and be like, actually, there's
yeah,
places here where
yeah,
I have vulnerability that I've got to really face,
because
actually,
it
and
really
learn
affected
to
me.
have
Yeah,
more, yeah, to have more acceptance and so on around. You said, on the other hand of that, nothing is going to knock me off my stride. That so this is I just like this kind of counterbalance. Some men are actually sensitive to the jibes and the almost toxicity
yeah,
that they feel in the air and get very, very angry about it,
yeah,
much more angry even than this man. And then there are other men that just take everything in their stride and they're not perturbed actually
yeah.
by the waters at all. What a difference actually between the two sides. I wonder if there's any other final practical thing you could give to some of the guys who think, the guys that come in the comments and they're like, God, I like your philosophy, but where I am, I've just had enough with this um,
Yeah.
atmosphere that we're all hanging out in. How can I be unperturbed actually when I hear and see these things? That's the
You
cry.
just got to be devoted to being excellent, whatever that looks like for you, and stay caught up in the knowledge that like we're all Philistines, including her. She's trying to put on these airs, and just stay devoted to that cause of you. Would you die for your own cause? You know, would you be willing to die for your own cause of you? So just be devoted to that journey. Recognize that you're on that journey. Recognize that you're making mistakes and you're saying stupid things, and it's not exactly the way outcomes are not exactly what you hoped it would be, but that
Mm.
you're sincere. And so no one can knock that sincerity out of you. No one can say that, oh, I don't agree with, well, yeah, no one can gainsay that or say that that's not true. You're, the phrase I always use, you're a student of life. And if you recognize you're a student of life, you're trying to figure it out. And so I'm learning things. She can't knock me off of that. So it's because we're looking up pedestal women and trying to please them. We're trying to be pleasers of women. That's why we learn to go down on women for hours and hours. So I can be pleasing. I want to please women. We forget the idea that we're all broken and we're all magnificent. We're all sacred and profane at the same time. We're trying to transcend that, and I'm at least I'm trying to transcend that. My lovely adversary on my right hand side. At least I'm trying to be sincere, be cool, be interesting, be funny to you, I'm trying. And you want to knock it down, that's okay. So it's a choice you have to make, that you're not burdened with ineptitude. If you're sincerely trying, you may not know yet how to say or do, but you're not this unworthy individual that you think you are. And you've got to come to terms with that. You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to help yourself out. Put your arm around yourself, and man has to turn toward the mirror now and then. Put his arm around himself, because father's not coming back. You don't have anybody to say it's going to be okay, son. Those days are gone. When you're a kid, you scraped your knee, you run to teacher or mom or dad, and they'd say, "Oh, it's going to be okay." Now you don't have that. You don't have anybody say it's going to be okay. You've got to be that to yourself. And then no matter, and if you're dedicated to that, and you pause every morning and say, "This is what I want. I don't know how I'm going to get it. I want my life to look like this." The archetype we talked about. I want to be this archetype, me, cowboy archetype. No matter what she says on the right-hand side of you, it can't perturb you. It's like, all right, okay, I'm still me. I'm still heading toward this direction. Something like that.
Yeah, the theme of narrative, like having a strong sense of narrative for what your life is and who you are, and where, how you exist in the annals of history and your whole point of existence. I know that sounds very grand, but thinking back over my story, there was a time 20 odd years ago where my story of myself, or my conception of my own self and my journey and my narrative, was very thin. And if something didn't work out, or someone was mean to me, especially a woman that I wanted to please, my story would collapse underneath the weight of hers. All it would take was a pretty girl to come along and give me a bad judgment, and any sense of self-made story would collapse under her judgment of me. Almost like
me too.
My own identity would just reduce into tatters because of a gust of bad wind from her mouth. And as the years go by, the revelation, the initiations, the experiences, the real loves, the real experiences in life, as they kind of mount up, I end up with a sense of a narrative or a story of who I am that cannot be crushed. Like, it can be impacted, and I can be, it's not like this impermeable shield that keeps out everyone else at all costs. But there's a sense of narrative that, kind of what you're saying, if something mean gets said about me, particularly if in some dating or some social situation, the story I have of myself is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It can't be knocked down. It might be like, oh, that stung a little bit. Okay, when I wake up the next morning, it's all forgotten, because that sense of self story, who I am and where I'm headed, is that just can't. It's like a tree trunk, actually, that even the axe can't chip it.
It slowly becomes the consciousness of you, like that stinging barb that someone can say, "I don't think anybody can affect me like that." Maybe I don't think so. Like I don't think now, in my 20s and 30s, man. Yeah, they could really. A woman would say something, and I'd be pondering it and brooding about it and weepy-eyed and red-eyed about it for days. Now, because of whatever accumulation of artifacts that I've added to my life, experience, age, whatever, knowledge, she can't touch me. And maybe that's unfair to say, because guys say, well, they can really touch me because I really do feel it emotionally. And you're at that, you've got that accumulation of traits that doesn't bother you, but it bothers me still. So practically, I think you just got to nod to yourself and say, okay, no one had it figured out. No one gave us there's no roadmap in your bassinet when you're a baby. This is how you do life, no one taught you. And so you're figuring it out. So, it's a perspective shift. You just say, you know what? I'm still me. I'm still trying. I'm still trying to learn. I'm still waking up tomorrow morning thinking, man, I tried to get that girl to like me and she didn't like me, but at least I tried. You can really honor yourself, and I think we need to honor ourselves more. Just like we need to honor our relationships. I mean, I've talked a lot. Makes sense to me.
Wrap it up there. We'll put a little recap in the comments below and a little exercise you can do on this topic, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.